let's stay on power for now and have this conversation, not just on electricity, but I guess we would also go to the oil and gas, the issue of crude also topping the list. But let's do this conversation with a petroleum economist, Mr. Lucky Ighoyota, joins us virtually from wherever. So, Ighoyota, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So we hear deaths, we hear intervention from the president. He had said he would intervene because of some of these deaths. But what does all of this tell us about the sustainability of our energy sector in the country?
Yeah, thank you. The energy talk in Nigeria is becoming obviously paradoxical because Nigeria cannot be an endowment of enough energy reserve as we have in gas of over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas embedded in our soil, with over 37 billion barrels of oil reserved there for tap. So when we're talking about issues pertaining to energy sustainability, energy accessibility, and environmental sustainability around the energy trilemma issues, it's worrisome that Nigeria still have this deficit and array of issues to grapple with. Having said that, it is what it is. This is Nigeria for you. It's a work in progress. The interventions that have been made by government in the electricity sector, we entered this year with over 2.4 trillion naira debt owed the discos. And that is a very big challenge for any business entity. We are all shouting of energy poverty. As we already know, the numbers are not too good. Numbers don't actually lie, even though I try to query some data coming from our space here, given the parameters at which those numbers are generated and put forward. But be that as it may, the World Bank had said that over 90 million Nigerians go to bed. That's about 45% of our population, given the 220 million people that is being considered that we have. That 90 million people go to bed without electricity, predominantly from our rural area. So it's challenging, it's a daunting task to face, but it's something that some of us have devoted our lives on, and we must learn to also understand that it's a work in progress, even though we have our misgivings around how government is handling the situation around every sector, not just the energy sector. We gradually pull through if all else, especially the private sector, is incorporated fully, given the signing on of the Energy Act 2023 that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed, considering the privatization that was done, even though done haphazardly, that saw the resignation of Professor Barton-Najid there. I think in all of these old things, the energy value chain is still a huge market in Nigeria. It's a big industry that if we can get our hearts right, it's going to definitely turn things around for economy and also creating jobs for our people.
So, but the issue of debt, doesn't it point to perhaps the possibility of, we always talk about cost-effective tariffs and all that. Doesn't it point towards that way? Perhaps we haven't gotten there yet, and we still have subsidy on electricity even as we speak.
Yes, subsidizing energy is for actually rich country. Some of us are already arguing that on what basis are we subsidizing energy? Energy, we cannot be subsidizing energy for, for luxurious living. Energy is supposed to be subsidized for the very, very poor people, especially those in my community, say, for instance, Elume or Sapele or Ogulaha, where I was born. Look, people there are predominantly poor. You cannot be subsidizing energy for somebody living in Lekki. or somebody living in Asokoro or Meitama. You are just wasting resources. Look, energy is a capital intensive business. To generate 1 kilowatt of power, do you know how much it costs? To generate 1 barrel of oil, do you know how much it costs that you are going to be gifting it by way of subsidy? For us, we are believing that the subsidy of things, especially energy, should be looked into carefully and reviewed. Like when they took out subsidy of petrol subsidy, you could see how much the government have been able to generate to pump into other sectors, even though not being used exactly like as been expected. Governors now have more money in their coffers to spend for development of their state and also take care of their people's prosperity. So if you are talking about subsidizing, I saw the Enugu state government a few days ago crashing down tariffs for power that the band A, band B people should all have some 70, 80 naira discount that the state government is going to be paying, I don't know. While we canvass that state government should have their own electricity regulatory commission like we have in NEC at the federal level and Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, it is not to use for it is not to be used for politics. We've got to encourage those in the energy generation, energy distribution business so that they can stay in business. Or yet, energy theft is a very big issue in our country. People are consuming power without paying for power and not making case for the intermittent power supply that we're experiencing. I'm making case for business people in the power sector, in the energy sector, also in the oil and gas sector. Like what you see every day in the news where you hear of oil theft and the consequences, people don't even try to measure it. It's having a toll on not just the national pulse, it's also having a toll on the decision of the operators in the oil and gas sector. Most of them are beginning to review their decision and investment position in our space. That's why most of them are, if I'm permitted to use the word from our local parlance, are jackpine to deep sea. Oil securitization, even though the NNPC have done its best through the oil and gas or energy securitization, if you like, even though the NNPC is doing its best in the oil and gas sector by way of recruiting oil consultancy firms like PIA, Tantita, and what have you, to secure those pipes for optimality in production and export of our crude. If you notice, if you follow the news carefully, last month they recorded something very huge in the month of June, where as being produced, they recorded 100% transfer of crude from production sources to outlet sources, which is very good. We can also achieve that the electricity sector if people that are responsible do the right things.
So talking about oil and gas now, the NUPRC had said that between 2002 and 2025, about 353 million barrels of crude oil were stolen from Nigeria's Niger Delta. You seem to believe that we are making progress, talking about curbing oil theft. How much more do you think should be done, when it comes to dealing with oil theft? Because now we see Nigeria being a net importer of crude, which is a sad one for a country that's supposed to be a major oil producer. And it's all plays on vandalism and oil theft, and some people have said if the community would cooperate, then this issue of oil theft could be a thing of the past.
Yeah, thank you. Talking about oil theft, like I said a while ago, last month, because the NNPC is doing something nice with PINL and others, around the securitization issue, you notice that we are beginning to drift away from the past. From 2002 to 2025 that you mentioned, that oil theft have been on the rise. You didn't actually take note of what has been happening in the last 3 years, going to 3 years now, the securitization policy of the pipeline assets came on board. Now, more needs to be done because it's not going to be, it's not just a sprint. It has to be a marathon. The PIA Act also embeds situations where communities need to be properly carried along by way of their 3% stake, and also them also taking responsibility wherever and whenever these assets are tapped, are illegally tapped on. Now, but again, some of the IOCs or even the local oil companies are not doing well in kind communities around, specifically the one that is being managed around Seplat axis, Seplat. You know, around the kingdoms, and also the coast community is very key. I think that people are beginning to call for a review of the PIA Act because there's some kind of anomaly there that, or let me not use the word, there's some kind of ambiguity there that did not actually spell out things. So some of these companies are taking advantage to misinterpret. So these things have got to be checked properly. A proper implementation of the PIA Act will also help to curb oil theft. If you would agree with me, that document is a very elaborate document. One of my senior professors, Professor Wumi, later an authority in the energy economics in Nigeria, made very serious input in that document. So I want to believe that document, if properly politically willed to succeed, should be able to address some of the issues in the oil and gas sector.
Yeah, but this change and adjustments you're asking for, is the community pushing for it? Who's supposed to be pushing for it?
Stakeholders generally, stakeholders in the business, government, private sector, community people have got to pushing for it. That's why some of us in our little way, wherever we have the opportunity, we'll be canvassing for these things. Government should listen. Government should listen, and stakeholders should listen, and National Assembly especially, who are responsible for lawmaking in this country, should also listen and act accordingly. This era of transactionalism of things have got to end. People have got to begin to transform. We have no other country. These are only country. Nigeria is an investment opportunistic country that people can come and take advantage of if we properly position ourselves. Africa is the world investment destination. Europe is developed. North America is developed. And in Africa, Nigeria is the centerpiece. If we can get things right here, people that have left the country. I was watching a program a while ago in one of the sister stations that they call the bridge, the diaspora bridge. A lot of Nigerians in diaspora, professionals in the energy sector, health sector, educational sector, they're all trying to come back and give back to the country. But we've got to create that space. We've got to create that enabling environment for people to come and give back to their country. Because most of these guys were trained and raised here. Some had their first degree, had primary, secondary education here. Some people had secondary here. They only left the country